At 4:45 in the morning on July 7, 1944, Captain Ben Salomon knelt inside a medical aid tent on Saipan, suturing a chest wound by lamplight, while 5,000 Japanese soldiers screamed toward his position. He was 29 years old, a Beverly Hills dentist. The Army had forced him out of the infantry 2 years earlier because they needed someone to pull teeth. Now he was 50 yards from the front line, surrounded by wounded men who could not run. The Japanese were not retreating, they were not defending, they were dying on purpose, and they planned to take as many Americans with them as possible. But the dentist from Beverly Hills had other plans. The banzai charge that hit the American lines that morning was the largest of the entire Pacific War. Lieutenant General Yoshitsugu Saito had ordered a gyokusai, a death attack. His final command stated there was no longer any distinction between civilians and troops. Whether they attacked or stayed where they were, there was only death. The night before, Saito performed ritual suicide. Admiral Chuichi Nagumo, the man who led the attack on Pearl Harbor, shot himself in the temple. Their bodies were cremated. The men who followed them had nothing left to lose. 4,000 to 5,000 Japanese soldiers charged at 4:45 a.m. Many were wounded. Many were drunk on sake. Many carried nothing but sharpened bamboo sticks and knives tied to poles. A Japanese-American intelligence officer had warned his superiors this was coming. They knew they were going to die. You could hear them singing in the distance. His warnings were dismissed. The human wave hit the American perimeter and kept coming. Major Edward McCarthy watched from his command post. He described it like one of those old cattle stampede scenes from the movies. The camera is in a hole in the ground, and you see the herd coming, and then they leap up and over you and are gone. Only the Japanese just kept coming and coming. The 1st and 2nd Battalions started that day with 1,108 men. By nightfall, 919 would be dead or seriously wounded, an 83% casualty rate. Within 10 minutes of the attack, 30 wounded soldiers crawled into Salomon's aid station. The tent filled. Salomon ordered his medics to move the walking wounded outside. He had no idea the perimeter had already collapsed. Japanese soldiers were now behind him, between him and headquarters. He was focused on the chest wound in front of him. Then he heard the scream. If you want to see how a dentist fought off 5,000 Japanese soldiers with nothing but a rifle and a machine gun, please hit that like button. It helps us share more forgotten stories like this. Back to Salomon. Salomon looked up. A Japanese soldier stood inside the tent, bayoneting a wounded American on a stretcher. The man was helpless. Salomon grabbed a rifle and shot the attacker before the bayonet could fall again. He turned back to his patient. 2 more Japanese soldiers appeared in the entrance. Salomon clubbed them both so hard, the rifle stock shattered. He picked up another rifle, shot one, bayoneted the other. 4 more crawled under the tent walls from different directions. Salomon kicked a knife out of one man's hand, shot another, bayoneted a third, and headbutted the 4th in the stomach. A wounded American grabbed a pistol and finished that one off. 6 Japanese soldiers dead inside the medical tent. But Salomon knew this was just the beginning. He ran outside to assess the situation. What he saw was catastrophic. The entire battalion front had collapsed. Japanese soldiers were everywhere. The defensive line no longer existed. He went back inside. His medics were still working. He told them everybody was dead out there. He said he could do these men more good outside than in here. They were responsible now. Get them back to regiment if you can, he told them. He would hold these bastards off until they got moving. A wounded survivor later testified that Captain Salomon was pretty mad. He was muttering about some sons of bitches not doing their job. He charged out with his fists doubled up, like he was going to beat hell out of somebody. Salomon grabbed an M1 Garand from a wounded soldier and ran into the chaos. One medic glimpsed him kneeling and firing at oncoming waves. But here is where things get truly insane. After 4 men were killed trying to operate a nearby machine gun, Salomon took over. The M1917A1 Browning could fire 450 to 600 rounds per minute. No American ever saw Ben Salomon alive again. Forensic evidence told what happened next. Captain Edmund Love, the 27th Division historian, examined the scene the following day. The trail of spent cartridges showed Salomon moved the gun 4 separate times. Love wrote that one could easily visualize Ben Salomon, wounded and bleeding, dragging that gun a few more feet to get a new field of fire. The blood was on the ground. The marks showed how hard it must have been, especially in that last move. The reason he had to reposition. So many Japanese soldiers fell in front of him that the bodies blocked his field of fire. He had to drag the machine gun to a new position just to keep shooting. Yeah, you read that. Right. Chief Warrant Officer Stephen Burns testified that the area in front of the weapon was covered with enemy dead, in some instances 3 or 4 bodies high. A physician examined Salomon's body afterward. The exam recorded 76 bullet wounds and multiple bayonet wounds. Of these, 24 were received while he was still alive and fighting. The remaining 52 struck him after he finally fell. When the counting party found him on July 8th, Salomon was slumped over the barrel of his machine gun, his shirt ripped to the waist. His ammunition was completely depleted. He had fired until there was nothing left. In front of his position lay 98 dead Japanese soldiers. For comparison, Lieutenant Colonel William O'Brien, who received the Medal of Honor posthumously for the same battle, had approximately 30 enemy dead around his position. Private Thomas Baker, also a posthumous recipient, had 8 dead around him. Salomon's count was more than triple the next highest. But here is the part that makes this story even more unbelievable. Salomon did not receive the Medal of Honor that day, or that year, or that decade. Captain Edmund Love prepared a recommendation with eyewitness statements from Major McCarthy, Captain Lewis Ackerman, and a medical aid man. General George W. Greiner returned it without action. The rejection stated that Greiner was deeply sorry. Salomon richly deserved the medal, but at the time of his death, this officer was in the medical service and wore a Red Cross brassard. Under the rules of the Geneva Convention, no medical officer can bear arms against the enemy. The interpretation was wrong. The 1929 Geneva Convention explicitly allowed medical personnel to bear arms in self-defense and in defense of wounded patients. But the rejection stood. Love tried again in 1951. The Army returned it, saying time limits had passed. By then, Captain Ackerman had been killed on Okinawa. Major McCarthy had committed suicide. The medical aid man could not be found. All eyewitnesses were gone. A third attempt in 1969 progressed further. The Judge Advocate General confirmed the Geneva Convention allowed defensive use of arms. The Army Senior Decorations Board unanimously recommended approval. The Joint Chiefs agreed. The Secretary of the Army forwarded papers to the Secretary of Defense with his recommendation to approve. In June 1972, the Office of the Secretary of Defense returned it without action, based on circumstantial information. Sound insane? It gets worse. The fourth and final nomination came in 1998. Dr. Robert West, an alumnus of the University of Southern California Dental School, discovered the story while researching the school's centennial. Congressman Brad Sherman submitted it through Congress. The fiscal year 2002 National Defense Authorization Act finally waived the time limitation. On May 1, 2002, 58 years after his death, President George W. Bush presented the Medal of Honor in the White House Rose Garden. Salomon was an only child with no living relatives. Dr. West accepted the medal on his behalf. Bush described what the Army pieced together from the evidence. In the moments that followed, Captain Salomon single-handedly killed 98 enemy soldiers, saving many American lives but sacrificing his own. He was shot 24 times before he fell, and more than 50 times after that. When they found his body, he was still at his gun. But here is the ironic part nobody talks about. Ben Salomon never wanted to be a dentist in the Army. He tried to enlist as an infantry soldier. When the draft caught him in March 1941, he entered as a private in the 102nd Infantry Regiment. Within a year, he qualified as an expert marksman with rifle and pistol, won every regimental marksmanship competition, and could field strip weapons blindfolded faster than most men could with their eyes open. His commanding officer declared him the best all-around soldier in the entire regiment. Then the Army discovered his dental degree. Despite his protests, they commissioned him as a first lieutenant in the dental corps. His infantry commander tried to get him assigned as an infantry officer instead. Request denied. The Army needed dentists, but Salomon never stopped being a soldier. Mornings in the dental chair, afternoons in the mud with rifle companies. He won every regimental physical fitness competition, competing against frontline infantrymen while serving as a medical officer. His regimental commander later said Ben Salomon was the best instructor in infantry tactics they ever had. He gave everybody who met him a real lift. He was the most vital man most of them ever knew. On the morning of July 7, 1944, the Army finally got what it had been denying Ben Salomon for 3 years. They got their infantryman. If this story moved you the way it moved us, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Every single like tells YouTube to show this story to more people. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Leave a comment right now and tell us where you are watching from. Our community stretches across the entire world. Tell us if someone in your family served. Just let us know you are here. Thank you for watching, and thank you for making sure Ben Salomon does not disappear into silence. These men deserve to be remembered, and you are helping make that happen.